call this meeting of the Michigan Public Service Commission to order on October 17th at 1:30 p.m. Good afternoon. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairman Talberg,
Present.
Commissioner Scripps,
Present.
Commissioner Phillips.
Present.
Madam Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, first up we have item number 1. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Chair, I move approval of today's agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The agenda is approved. Item number 2, we have approval of the meeting minutes.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the minutes of the regular commission meeting of October 7, 2019.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The meeting minutes are approved. Item number 3, approval of orders on the consent agenda. Today the commission is assisted by Attorney Kelly Barber Dodge and staff.
Good afternoon. Today's consent agenda consists of 5 electric matters and 1 gas matter. The proposed orders for each of these matters have been thoroughly vetted by the Commission's technical and legal staff and are ready for your approval.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the orders on today's consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The orders on the consent agenda are approved.
Item 4A1 is case number U20068, which involves an application filed by Consumers Energy Company for reconciliation of its power supply cost recovery expenses and revenues for calendar year 2017. The order before you approves an over-recovery of $31,730,557 as a power supply cost recovery reconciliation beginning balance for 2018.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the order in U-20068.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The order is approved.
Item 4A2 is case numbers U20183 et al., which involve a proceeding on the Commission's own motion for a determination of a Credit B calculation resulting from the Federal Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 for Upper Michigan Energy Resources Corporation. The order before you approves an amended report and authorizes Upper Michigan Energy Resources Corporation to implement a credit for the company's WPSC rate zone customers.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the order in case U-20183 et al.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The order is approved.
Item 4A3 is case number U20332, which involves a complaint filed by Fred Chapman against DTE Energy Company. The order before you finds a violation of the technical standards for electric service and requires DTE Electric Company, the proper respondent in this matter, to pay a fine and to provide power quality meter data.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the order in case U-20332.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The order is approved.
Item 4A4 is case number U20470, which involves the application of Upper Michigan Energy Resources Corporation for approval of its integrated resource plan. The order before you approves a corrected, revised settlement agreement resolving all issues in the case.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the order in case U-20470.
Second.
And before we go for a vote, Commissioner Scripps.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we take up this integrated resource plan, I wanted to add some context to today's decision. As I think many of us know, with this IRP in particular, it has not been a simple journey. The history of how we got to today involved the creation of a new utility, the retirement of the last coal-fired power plant in the Upper Peninsula, a story in itself, and construction of a fleet of new gas-fired reciprocating internal combustion engine, or RICE, plants. And this prologue, I think, eases to some degree the issues involved in the plan before us. Given this context in the record before us, it makes sense to approve this corrected revised settlement agreement. That said, the energy situation in the Upper Peninsula continues to evolve. For example, the UP Energy Task Force, created by Governor Whitmer in June, is charged with delivering by the end of March 2021 a report that includes an assessment of the UP's overall energy needs and recommendations for any potential changes. In addition, the Commission's statewide energy assessment, issued last month, included a number of provisions likely to affect future IRP filings, including recommendations relating to modeling parameters, a recognition of the benefits of broader long-term regional transmission, and a recommendation to quantify the value of generation diversity, an issue also included in the My Power Grid initiative being launched today. Given these developments, it makes sense to review UMERC's long-term plans sooner rather than later. As such, consistent with the statute and the terms of the settlement agreement, today's order directs UMERC to file its next IRP in 2 years. In addition, we remind UMERC of the filing requirements to be included in an IRP and expect UMERC to include a more fulsome analysis of these elements in its next plan case. We also note that while the addition of the 9 RICE units now in operation ensures UMERC will enjoy sufficient capacity for the foreseeable future, resource adequacy and capacity is just one of the elements included in statute by which the Commission evaluates the prudence of an IRP. And finally, at the same time we commend UMERC and staff for reaching an acceptable settlement, I'd also express my hope to see a broader range of parties involved in UMERC's next case. These cases provide a special opportunity to evaluate short and long-term utility plans, and the participation of additional parties would aid in the development of a more robust record on which to base a decision. This will ensure that the Upper Peninsula's unique energy issues continue to receive the attention they deserve.
Appreciate your remarks and also your contributions on the governor's task force. It's really important work, and I know we've got staff involved in supporting you and the rest of the task force as well. All right, with that, any other comments? No? All right.
That's great, thank you.
Thanks for your work on the case too. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The order is approved.
Item 4A5 is case number U20494, which involves an application filed by Indiana Michigan Power Company for ex parte approval to revise the company's economic development rider. The order before you grants a petition for rehearing and grants the requested relief.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the order in case U-20494.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The order is approved.
Item 4A6 is case number U20645, which involves the establishment on the Commission's own motion of My Power Grid. Staff member Mike Byrne is here to describe the order.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Byrne. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Public Service Commission. Today I'll be describing to you the My Power Grid initiative being launched by the Commission in collaboration with Governor Gretchen Whitmer, as outlined in the order before you in case number U-20645. The My Power Grid is a focused, multi-year stakeholder initiative supported by Governor Whitmer and the Commission to maximize the benefits of the transition to clean, distributed energy resources for Michigan residents and businesses. It seeks to engage utility customers and other stakeholders to help integrate new, clean energy technologies and optimize grid investments for reliable, affordable electricity service. And the initiative will consist of education, outreach, and regulatory reforms along with stakeholder engagement to advance Michigan's clean energy future. There are several reasons why undertaking this initiative now makes sense, which I'll briefly elaborate on in the next several slides. We're seeing a steady and significant decline in the costs of renewable energy, such as wind and solar. And this slide just shows the precipitous decline in utility-scale solar prices over the past decade. We're also seeing that batteries and other forms of energy storage continue to improve with a range of customer and utility applications. And as you can see here, battery storage prices are trending downward as well. And several Michigan utilities have piloted battery storage as well as other technologies such as microgrid applications. We also know that on a levelized basis, the costs of renewables like wind and solar are competitive with, and in many cases lower than conventional electricity supply options like coal and nuclear. You can see on the right-hand side of the slide here, the costs for nuclear and coal relative to wind and solar on the left-hand side. We also know that the electricity supplies used to power Michigan's homes and businesses are shifting from large central station power plants to cleaner and more distributed energy resources such as wind and solar energy. This slide shows that from 2007 to 2017, the percentage of coal used to generate electricity has declined significantly, while renewables and supply-side resources have increased. And this trend is expected to continue as half of Michigan's coal-fired electricity generation is being retired over a 10-year period from 2015 to 2025. Customers are also expressing a strong preference for cleaner, renewable sources of energy and new ways to lower their utility bills. And this slide shows the continued uptick in corporate renewable energy deals, which Michigan enables through Commission-approved voluntary green pricing programs. The shift to electric-powered passenger and fleet vehicles could be transformative for both the electric and transportation sectors, with one study predicting that by 2040, 57% of all new passenger vehicle sales and over 30% of the global passenger vehicle fleet will be electric. We also know that many electric utilities serving Michigan have committed to carbon emission reductions, with some also pursuing renewable energy beyond state mandates and goals due to the economics and sustainability commitments. So we're in the midst of a transformation to a cleaner, more distributed electricity grid, with customers having an interest in taking more control of their energy decisions, at the same time as customer behavior is becoming a more important part of our resource mix through increased reliance on activities like energy efficiency and demand response. So as we undergo this significant transition, it's important for the MPSC, as a regulator of public utilities in the state, to take appropriate steps, working with providers, customers, and interested stakeholders to ensure we are adequately preparing for these fundamental changes. So while the Commission has done a lot of work to prepare for these changes, more remains to be done. In the spirit of building on the existing foundation, as well as tying together ongoing discrete efforts, the Commission seeks to establish an overarching vision and strategic objectives to guide further discussions. As such, today the Governor announced the establishment of MyPowerGrid in collaboration with the Commission. So MyPowerGrid will be organized into 3 core areas of emphasis focused on customer engagement, integrating emerging technologies, and optimizing grid performance and investments. Each core area of emphasis will be further broken down into distinct work areas, with work teams led by and composed of Commission staff, with each commissioner providing input and guidance within a specific core area of emphasis. We'll talk a little bit about each of these areas. For customer engagement, which will be led by Commissioner Phillips, the objective is to provide Michigan residents and businesses with the energy technologies, programs, and price signals that will allow customers to be more active and effective participants in the state's transition to increased clean and distributed energy resources. For integrating emerging technologies, which will be led by Chairman Talberg, the objective is to ensure timely and fair grid access and appropriate information exchange to support customer-oriented solutions and reliable system operations. And within the optimizing grid investments and performance area, which will be led by Commissioner Scripps, the objective is to integrate transmission, distribution, and resource planning to increase transparency and optimize solutions. It will involve the enhancement of tools, financial incentives, and regulatory approaches to adapt to technology change and customer preferences. So over the next 2 years, the Commission will undertake work in all of these areas, utilizing stakeholder work groups, facilitated discussions, rulemakings, and other tools to help prepare for Michigan's energy future. Today's order requires staff to submit a progress report by September 30th, 2020, and also requires a summary of MyPowerGrid activities by the 3rd quarter of 2021. And work is already underway or will commence shortly in the following work areas. For interconnection rules, there's been an ongoing stakeholder process with work groups that will result in a draft rule set being turned over to the Commission to be able to initiate a formal rulemaking. Distribution planning has also had ongoing stakeholder work groups that will culminate in a staff report and ultimately Commission guidance on the next round of distribution plans. As outlined in today's order, staff will work with stakeholders to review past Commission pilot programs and best practices from other states to provide recommendations on objective criteria to evaluate the effectiveness and customer benefits of pilot programs, which will be part of the Energy Programs and Technology Pilots work area. Under demand response, work will kick off shortly to tackle recommendations related to DR from the statewide energy assessment, involving increasing customer participation and communication and improving performance. And similarly, work groups will be announced shortly to look at updating the Commission's service quality and reliability standards, as well as the technical standards for electric service, consistent with recommendations from the statewide energy assessment relative to reliability standards and cyber security. So the Commission seeks participation from anyone who's interested in these efforts. To that end, we have set up a dedicated website, michigan.gov/mypowergrid, where information about this initiative and each of the specific work areas is available. In addition, a dedicated email address to answer questions related to My Power Grid has been established, as well as email listservs for each of the work areas. Relevant information will be continuously updated, be posted to the website, pushed out over email, and disseminated via social media. Commission strongly encourages stakeholder participation and will work hard to ensure transparency and accessibility around these efforts. So to conclude, this initiative will involve a lot of effort on the part of staff, customers, stakeholders, and utilities with the goal of ensuring we are doing the best we can to adequately prepare for the ongoing transition of the electric sector and to maximize the benefits associated with this transition. And I look forward to working with commissioners and probably many others in this room to undertake this important work. I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide this overview.
Thank you, Mike.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the order in case U-20645.
Second.
So we all have comments on this. I just thank you for the presentation. It was really great. We're just really excited to partner with Governor Whitmer on this initiative, My Power Grid, and to see all these activities come together under a strategic vision. It's been in the works for a while, and seeing it get to this point is really exciting. My Power Grid is timely and necessary. The energy industry is on the cusp of transformational change with the move to cleaner, more distributed energy resources such as solar and energy storage, as well as electrification of the transportation sector, a lot of the drivers that Mike talked about. With this initiative, we really want to make the most of this transition for Michigan's residents by engaging a broad range of stakeholders. Mike, your leadership, working with the team, the commissioners, and staff to shape My Power Grid is greatly appreciated. We could not have done this without you and other staff on all 3 floors of the Michigan Public Service Commission, so more on that. I'm also humbled and inspired to work alongside 2 uniquely qualified individuals who can lend their leadership and communication skills as well as their expertise in clean energy to help guide the My Power Grid initiative. So I'm going to turn it over to first Commissioner Scripps and then Commissioner Phillips for their perspective.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today is the kind of day that anyone involved in energy policy and regulation dreams of. I mean, we're getting a shout out on today's taping of the Energy Gang podcast. That's pretty close to heaven for us energy nerds.
Speak for yourself.
I want to reiterate Chairman Talberg's compliments of the staff in their work to date, that this is really built on the foundation that so many of you have built. As outlined in the My Power Grid website, the effort flows directly from the many feeder streams on which so many of our staff have been working for a number of years now. And much of this work, from electric vehicles to distribution grid planning to voluntary green pricing programs and others, is already recognized as best in class around the country. My Power Grid builds on the work of many hands that's already been done, and I want to thank staff in advance for the work to come. I also want to thank my fellow commissioners. Commissioner Phillips, your background, expertise, passion, and laser focus on the customer will be invaluable throughout this process. And indeed, even in the short time since you've arrived, you've already put your own definitive stamp on this initiative, and it's better by far for your contributions. And Chairman Talberg, you and I have been working on this in different capacities for a number of years now, and this effort simply wouldn't happen without your vision and your leadership. It's such an honor to be working with you as we move this project forward. As I've noted on a number of previous occasions, including before I was appointed, the difference between Michigan's efforts in embracing a modern grid and the work of many other states is our focus on the granular work necessary to truly move things forward. It's about actions over words, not just fancy reports on a shelf, but commission orders that actually implement change to how the grid works. That's why today's so exciting. Through the My Power Grid initiative, we're pulling together several years of really thoughtful work, zooming out to find the connective tissue and plotting a course forward that ensures the many changes happening in the utility space, from DTE's recent announcement to achieve net zero CO2 emissions by 2050, to Consumers Energy's Clean Energy Plan, to the carbon reduction goals of other utilities and the increasing demand for renewables from companies and individuals alike, to the price declines and technological changes noted earlier, that all these changes ultimately work to the benefit of customers. Through this process, as noted, I'll be focusing on optimizing grid investments and performance. And that includes a number of things that I'm excited to dive into. And as we launch this initiative, I'm reminded of a quote that Al Freeman on our staff shared from the writer William Gibson, who noted that the future is already here. It's just not very evenly distributed. The best way to achieve more equitable outcomes is to engage customers, to truly involve them, to put them at the center of this discussion. Given this, we need to be more as commissioners than passive onlookers. Experience in other states shows that the pace is always faster than anticipated, and those states that haven't been proactive have been left to deal with the consequences of change as opposed to reaping the benefits. We can do better in Michigan, and My Power Grid is the pathway to that better future. It's an exciting day in Michigan. I'm looking forward to partnering with my colleagues, our staff, the utilities serving the state, other stakeholders and solutions providers, and most important of all, the individual energy customers to ensure the many benefits of the transitions taking place ultimately meet the needs of the people of this state.
Thank you, Commissioner Scripps, and thank you, Chair Talberg. This is quite the humbling occasion for me, coming in at the fourth quarter of this effort, but still thankfully being able to contribute and be a part of what truly is a groundbreaking initiative, not only for the state, but I think for the Midwest region and for the nation as well. So again, I thank you both for your ongoing and continued leadership and vision in bringing this effort to fruition. And I thank you, Mike, and the staff here at the Commission for continuing to tackle these complex challenges while increasingly positioning Michigan as a national leader in the integration and adoption of best practices that will assist us in making the most of Michigan's clean energy future. As a part of the My Power Grid effort, I will be focusing on the customer engagement section. Through this pillar, the Commission will work with stakeholders to identify and provide Michigan electricity customers with the energy technologies, programs, and price signals that will allow customers to be more active and engaged participants in the state's transition to increase clean and distributed energy resources. We will look to accomplish this in two ways. First, by educating and facilitating increased customer involvement and adoption of programs and technologies. This will include time-based pricing, EWR, and demand response programs. Our educational and outreach efforts will really build off of the work already underway and led by the communications section here at the Commission, who have recently amplified our outreach capabilities through the launch of the new MPSC website and the inclusion of a My Power Grid dedicated webpage for this work. Secondly, we will continue to work with our stakeholders to facilitate increased access to tools, technologies, and price signals that will allow our customers to be more engaged and active participants in the state's energy system. In particular, the Commission will focus on increasing the availability and effectiveness of demand response programs, innovative rate offerings such as voluntary green tariffs, and utility-led energy programs and technology pilots. Once again, I thank our staff for their continued expertise and invaluable contributions to this effort, and I look forward to working with our stakeholders as well as the Governor's Office to maximize the benefits of this clean energy future while continuing to ensure safe, reliable, and accessible energy services for Michigan residents.
Thank you. All right, well, all three areas of emphasis are interesting and impactful, and we tried to divvy them up, and we kept trading. No, you take that one. So the area I wanted to focus on deals with the integration of emerging technologies, such as solar, energy storage, microgrids, grid-connected buildings, and electric vehicles. And the objective here is to identify barriers that may exist in the regulatory realm to these technologies so that we can unlock the potential for customers and provide fair access to the energy grid. We'll do this through several efforts, such as updating our rules for interconnecting new resources to the grid. And I use the word resources intentionally, not generation, because this could include things like energy storage and microgrids that may serve a different and more dynamic role than conventional generation and may present unique challenges with the integration and interconnection to the grid. This effort has been ongoing over the course of this year with the staff working with stakeholders. I see Julie Baldwin in the room. I'm not sure if Nick Evans is here. Meredith and others have been leading this in-depth discussions of a draft set of rules that the commission can then take to publish for additional public comment after the new year. We also intend to examine best practices related to resource procurement to ensure we're not inhibiting certain technologies through bidding or other utility procurement processes. Consumers Energy is undertaking the first tranche of competitive bidding for solar this fall, and based on the framework approved by the commission and the company's integrated resource plan, there's a round of stakeholder input and coming back to the commission for additional guidance thereafter. There's also ongoing discussions related to data access, whether that's talking about the implementation of utility tariffs governing customer access to energy consumption data or broader system data to help inform placement of new generators. This issue of system data ties to both the interconnection rules as well as the electric distribution planning effort that Commissioner Scripps touched on. I would also observe that there's a lot of interplay between these different areas of emphasis, so the swim lanes are not, I mean, they're sort of a little blurry. And I think it is this strong linkage and trying to pull it all together that's so important. Your description, I think, is spot on, Commissioner Scripps, about the connective tissue between these different areas. There's also, and this is particularly exciting for me, strong linkage to our telecommunications work at the Public Service Commission, because a lot of this future is going to depend on having access to strong networks for broadband and data being an enabler of a smarter grid. Finally, I want to acknowledge the tremendous work by the staff. It's truly been world-class over the past several years to lay the foundation for this effort. This includes the implementation of the 2016 energy laws, and we really seek to build and integrate and build on these efforts. Our team has been instrumental in shaping the My Power Grid approach. There was an initial vision, but to see so many people make their mark on shaping how it was developed, from commissioners and staff, the governor's office, other state agencies like EGLE, it's just really a rewarding experience. So thanks to everyone who contributed. And I also just want to acknowledge the amount of effort that went into the communications from the website and other efforts to make sure that we hit the ground running and could effectively make this process transparent and have stakeholders engage from day one. And no doubt, My Power Grid, I think one of the reactions was, wow, that's ambitious. And it is, but I also think it's incredibly timely and necessary given the pace of change in the energy industry that is underway. And I have full confidence that the Public Service Commission will do what it does best, which is to bring together diverse interests and perspectives to tackle really thorny, controversial issues and develop workable solutions. So with that, as we move forward, we look forward to working with the broad group of stakeholders, as well as coordination with the governor, other state agencies, and the legislature. And I will quote Bob Dylan. I'd make my dad proud, even though I was mortified listening to him as a child, that times are a-changing. All right, anything else? Do you have a song? No?
Could make
We
one
need,
up.
we need like a, yeah, make a list. Everyone on
My
the
Power
team.
Grid playlist.
Yeah, on Spotify. All right. With that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The order is approved. Thank you.
Item 4B1 is case number U20608, which involves the amendment of the rules governing the technical standards for gas service. Staff member Kevin Spence is here to describe this order.
How do you follow that, Kevin?
Gas safety.
I don't have any songs either. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Kevin Spence, engineer in the Gas Operations Section of the Energy Operation Division and case coordinator for U20608. The MPSC first promulgated standards of gas service in 1926, also known as the Gas Technical Standards. The most recent amendment to the rules occurred in 1993. As such, the Gas Technical Standards are well overdue for an amendment to bring them up to date with the present times. The Commission sought permission from the Michigan Office of Administrative Hearings and Rules, MORE, to amend the rules governing the technical standards for gas service. Once approved, the Commission submitted the draft rules to MORE and the Legislative Service Bureau for informal approvals, both of which were granted. the regulatory impact statement was submitted to and approved by Moore. Among minor revisions to correct errors and bring current, out-of-date technical standards in the current rules, the draft includes the addition of 3 important rule sets. The Commission is proposing to update the rule concerning statistical sampling of customer meters to provide utilities the option to select among various standards for meter selection and testing. The Commission proposes to establish a standard for the allowable concentration of oxygen in natural gas to address concerns about corrosion and costly damage to gas storage facilities. Finally, the Commission is proposing the addition of 2 security standards to protect against threats to cybersecurity. The first is largely identical to the cybersecurity rule that has been promulgated in the technical standards for electric service. The second adopts, by reference, API Standard 1164 Pipeline SCADA Security. The order before you provides the public with an opportunity to comment on the proposed rules. The Commission has scheduled a pre-hearing, which will be held at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on November 13, 2019. Any person may attend the public hearing and may offer comments on the proposed rules. In addition, any person may submit written comments regarding the proposed rules no later than 5 p.m. Eastern Time on December 4, 2019. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the order in case U-20608.
Second.
And before we go to vote on this, I just thank you, Kevin, for your work and your leadership. You've been here just a short, couple years at the Public Service Commission, and you've really made your mark both with the statewide energy assessment, your efforts on the siting of different pipelines, as well as now undertaking this rulemaking in a lead role. So thank you for your contributions. Also, we just want to underscore how important this is in terms of updating the gas technical standards and including cybersecurity protections as part of that, and just the need to be ever vigilant on that. I know Governor Whitmer declared Cybersecurity Awareness Month in October, so it's very timely in that respect. And on October 28th, there will also be the state's Cybersecurity Summit that happens annually. So with that, I just wanted to make those comments, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The order is approved. Thanks. All right, so next up, item 5, public comments. Anyone seeking to address the commission should come forward. Seeing no one. Anyone want to nominate their song for the My Power Grid initiative? Just kidding. The next commission meeting, just a couple of announcements. I also want to note this week is Careers in Energy Week, and while I think the Michigan Public Service Commission is the best place on the planet to work.
And we do have some openings.
We have some openings, so check our website or the Civil Service Department with the state of Michigan, and let us know if you have questions. There's a lot of rewarding careers here at the commission, as well as across the energy sector, whether you're a financial expert, engineer, accountant, you are more hands-on doing infrastructure work across the state. There's so much activity going and tremendous need. Tree trimming, just the opportunities are endless. So we'll celebrate with the governor and others the Careers in Energy Week. And then finally, our next commission meeting is November 14th at 1:30 p.m. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.